from USA Today, by way of KTVU, Fox 2 News, by slimmest of margins, California voters pass game-changing bill for mental health services. And quite obviously, it took more than a week for this vote to pass on mental health services. And did anybody think for one split second that after a week, Governor Newsom's signature plan was not going to pass?
At San Francisco Union Hall to gather support for the Yes on Proposition 1 campaign. The governor was joined by Mayor London Breed, Sacramento Mayor Darrell Steinberg, and a coalition of mental health workers, doctors, and firefighters. If approved, Prop 1 would allow the state to borrow $6.4 billion. The money would be used to build mental health and substance abuse treatment facilities and supportive housing for people who are unhoused. Governor Newsom says it has bipartisan support in the state legislature.
We are in a position we haven't been in 50 years to address this crisis.
Bro, there's no way. You've been in California politics for decades. You claimed that you were going to clean up homelessness in 2008.
We believe fundamentally that food solves hunger, that shelters solve sleep, and that housing solves homelessness. And if we're going to solve the problem of those that are out on the streets that we define as homeless, we better solve the housing problem if we're going to have an impact. And that's why we established this framework, what we call a 10-year plan to end chronic homelessness in San Francisco.
And now it's just going to take $6.4 billion for you to do it. This is crazy. This is a scam right in front of your face. It took 2 weeks because the vote was so close that, surprise, Governor Gavin Newsom wins at the end.
That's why it's so important to take this opportunity, this moment, to not just assert ourselves, but to advance a paradigm which I think meets this moment in a very unifying way. This was bipartisan in the Senate.
No, it wasn't, bro. The vote was like 49-51. You want to talk about bipartisan? Okay, sure. You got a whole bunch of corrupt Republicans in California that are signing off to give this man more money and definitely not fix a problem that he helped to create. This is crazy, bro. They've gone so far, right? Obviously, Tish James, Jack Smith, Big Fat Furious, Fannie Pack Willis, Tiffany Henyard. All of the corruption is so blatant. It's astonishing. It's a couple more seconds.
Opponents question the constitutionality of Proposition 1 because
I'm sure that's the least of it, right? Oh, the constitutionality. It's just a scam. All of these bills in California especially they have pretty names and they're littered with poison pills.
Say it calls for forcing some mentally ill people on the streets into...
Oh, yeah, that's why they're mad. They question the constitutionality because it's going to force some junkies that are displacing regular tax-paying citizens of San Francisco. I mean, this is crazy. They're coming for Proposition 1 for all the wrong reasons. It's very similar to the weirdo hard lefties who hate Bo Jiden because he hasn't gone far left enough on the Sun Monster. And to be honest, I thought this video was about the official passing of Prop 1, but obviously it's a little bit older. Let's see what the article says. Governor Newsom stops in San Francisco, advocates for Prop 1 mental health plan. And of course, as we know, the mental health, that new buzz phrase, buzzword, whatever, that they're constantly lobbing out is nothing but nonsense. You look up mental health facility in California, it's just a weirdo propaganda LGBTQ center that's gonna, you're gonna come in because you're sad and you're gonna leave gay at least. Otherwise, they're gonna give you some pills and tell you to cut your junk off in 6 months. But by the slimmest of margins, California voters approved a 2-part ballot measure to restructure the state's mental health and curb its long-standing for $6.5 million, Governor Greaseball, scumbag, bang your wife Gavin Newsom is going to fix the problem. Absolutely laughable. Although Election Day was more than 2 weeks ago, it took until late Wednesday for enough votes to be counted to call the race in favor of Proposition 1. Again, and I've talked about this before, but when that didn't pass over the first, when the vote wasn't finished counting after a day or two, it was clear that was happening. Ask Governor Katie Hobbs, ask Bo Jiden, ask the people who put up the boards in Detroit, I believe it was. It takes so long. We have to keep counting because we have to know exactly what we need to do to make sure that this passes and I can, run this scam. And on the plus side, I guess, glass half full, maybe this also means that Governor Gavin Newsom is on the way out because they got that guy Steve Garvey. And obviously, the Senate is much different from the governorship, but people are finally starting to realize you took it too far. You've destroyed California. You've made it impossible to live and conduct business. And maybe, just maybe, people are snapping out of the brainwashing. I do not know. Okay. It took until late Wednesday for enough votes to be counted to call the race in favor of Proposition 1 by a margin of 50.2 to 49.8. The measure, strongly backed by Governor Newsom, will allocate roughly $6.4 billion to mental health treatment facilities and housing and assist the homeless. Yeah, it's kind of like, we're going to also do a minimum wage hike. Where's all this money coming from? We're going to do a minimum wage hike, but a bunch of my crony, capitalist, Panera-owning buddies are going to say, no, I don't want to do it, so I'm going to pay you and get out of that minimum wage requirement and I guess hire robots because you can't hire people who are going to work for less than minimum wage. And then, of course, some other business owners came out of the woodwork and got out of the minimum wage requirement too. So it is a very mess, if you wanted to put it incredibly nicely. Although election day was okay, yeah, we already read that. Newsom has repeatedly called Proposition 1 a game changer, and people are still buying it. Absolutely crazy. He said the plan will help fund more mental health care workers, give those living on our streets to get the care they need, and provide $1 billion to help veterans. This is the same state that is allowing men dressed up as women to go into the women's prison for justice and safety. Crazy. Although Proposition 1 is not expected to substantially change the number of unhoused people, I mean, give it a rest. You mean the homeless junkies that are littering? Sorry, I'm getting turned up here.
I'm triggered.
But it's everywhere, right? Oh, it was a big news story when Governor Newsom pretended to clean up a couple city blocks of San Francisco for the dictator of China, which I guess technically he did, but I'm not joking. It was literally like 3 blocks. The rest of it was all still completely disgusting, and the 3 blocks that were clean are certainly not clean anymore. But now he's going to fix the problem, right? You got stories of overpasses that are unsafe because junkies are burning trucks under them. But this is going to fix the problem. And we can look in a year or two, and I guarantee you it is not rocket scientist. It's not rocket science. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be Stephen Hawking. I don't know who's the smartest person. You don't have to be Einstein to realize that quite clearly this man is not going to fix any of these problems. He's only going to destroy the state even further, and they're going to place him with somebody either more extreme, if that is possible, or they're going to course correct, and somebody with common sense is going to have a lot to clean up. It goes on. Unhoused people. Yeah, it's not going to. So we're going to give Governor Gavin Newsom, scumbag greaseball bang your wife Gavin Newsom, control of $6.4 billion. Is it billion or million? I think it's billion, but whatever. It doesn't matter because it's all fake. And it's not going to change the number of unhoused people anyways. What? It had bipartisan support to address the state's lack of housing and mental health crisis that has been brewing for 75 years. Oh, mental health. Oh, yeah, the mental health. You just need to go see a doctor that we tell you to see, and we get paid on the back end for that too. Quote, we need to stabilize people, Newsom said during a campaign rally earlier this month in San Francisco. We need to deal with the underlying reasons they're out on the streets and sidewalks in the first place. The reasons they're self-medicating with drug and alcohol addiction. Yeah, we're going to really save these people. It's you, bro. You've created more dystopia than anybody else in the country, right? Oh, yeah, you should stay home, get a shot. Don't go to school. I'm going to go to the French Laundry, though, and talk with some, donors. And then I'm going to allow Panera to skirt the minimum wage law so he can pay the people stupid enough to believe they were going to get a pay raise but he undercut them, and now they have to work for less than the rest of the. I mean, this is a complete and total mess.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. And fuck you, I'm out.
So really, the minimum wage thing was a total scam. So there's only going to be a handful of mom and pop shops that are going to have to pay their employees more than the employees working at Panera. But again, different story, I digress. The close results showed that Californians likely have bond fatigue. Brian Sobel, a longtime political analyst based in San Francisco Bay Area, said a few days ago, California voters may be sending a message to lawmakers that they need to see more results from the money we spend and a more concerted effort. Otherwise, we just can't trust them when they ask for more money. Yeah, of course we can't trust them, obviously, bro. The division was largely geographic. Counties along the state's Pacific coastline generally supported the measure, while inland counties where problems of homelessness are less visible generally opposed it. Oh, yeah. So the counties on the coast where the junkies live, they say, oh, we're going to give Newsom more money so he can fix it. But the inland counties that aren't dealing with homelessness, they didn't want to do it because they just don't see the problem. They don't see the homelessness, so they don't want to fork over more money to Newsom. The measure authorizes the state to borrow $6.38 million. Okay, I said billion. I'm pretty sure it is billion. Hang on, let's keep going. $6.38 million in bonds against county mental health budgets, redirecting most of those funds toward new housing. And this is all stuff that nobody's going to be able to decipher. The money would be borrowed against income taxes already imposed on people who earn over $1 million annually. Now that money is allocated entirely by counties. So there you go. We're going to take, they told you, the rich have to pay their fair share. Not Hunter Biden, though. We're going to take it from the rich people, pretend to give it to poor people, but it's really going to go to Gavin Newsom and his buddies. About $4.4 billion will be used to add 68 mental health and addiction treatment beds that none of the junkies are going to go to, quite literally, and build 4,350 housing units, about half of which would be reserved for veterans. And that's what they're going to play up a lot, too. Don't you want to help the veterans? You just want to help the veterans.
No, it's going to be like fish in a barrel. I got it covered. Okay. Just watch and learn.
Oh, look at you, sweetie. What happened?
You goddamn knobs! What happened? Go get me a beer, bitch!
Excuse me,
What are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, that was working. Let me do the talking. I'll take from here. You sparked me out. You don't do that to a vet, Frank. You don't box in a vet.
To vote yes on Prop 1, even though that doesn't matter. They're going to juke the stats anyways. That's why it took 2 weeks to figure this out. California reportedly faces a shortage of almost 8,000 adult psychiatric beds. What? That's just made up. Oh, we need 8,000 psychiatric beds because the junkies that are on the fentanyl that we allowed into the country by way of an open border are freaking out. So we need 8,000. This is crazy. According to findings presented to state lawmakers last year by the RAND Corporation, a Santa Monica-based nonprofit. Oh, yeah, so a weirdo NGO nonprofit says that we need 8,000 more beds, and I'm sure they're not going to profit from it. They won't profit because they're a nonprofit. It's right there in the name. Like Antifa, they're anti-fascist. It's in the name, bro. What's wrong with you? Proposition 1 would also be an ambitious attempt to curb the state's ongoing homelessness issue. According to recent statistics by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, California's homeless count surged to 181,000 people in 2022, a 60% spike over the past decade. The state's homeless figure accounts for nearly a third of the overall homeless population in the U.S. The state would pay down the bonds with 30 annual $310 million payments, according to the state legislative analyst office. The measure will reform a 2-decade-old Mental Health Services Act that created a 1% personal income tax for those earning more than $1 million annually. Yeah, and I'd be willing to bet that Governor Gavin Newsom, who makes more than that, is not going to pay a dime in this, venture. This tax provides funding to county governments for mental health services. This is crazy. No, mental health, yeah. Oh. Revenues from the so-called millionaires tax generate between $2 billion to $3 billion annually, a budget about a third of the state's mental health budget. Now you even have mental health. They're gonna love that, right? Because you care about mental health, right? You care about veterans, right? That's what it's all about. Just give us your money. Sign over some of those tax dollars. And the man who literally destroyed San Francisco, graduated up to destroy the entire state, he's going to be the one in charge of it with Aunt Nancy, right? Aunt Nancy Pelosi insider trading and her son doing a weird flophouse scam. The corruption is absolutely astronomical. I don't understand how this continues to go on. Crazy. Okay. Which goes to help fund mental health programs with much flexibility. About 76% of the tax money directed to counties is used for mental health treatments, housing, outreach, and crisis. Do you think any of I've quite literally tried to talk to junkies on the street. They don't want it, bro. If you talk to 100 junkies in San Francisco, you might get one or two who are going to go into a housing into a facility that you give them. They do not want it. So where does the money go when those people reject it? Into the pocket of Gavin Newsom and his buddies. Okay, outreach and crisis. Another 19% is designated for prevention and intervention programs like school-based mental health counseling. For like the fourth time, mental health, veterans. How dare you not approve this scam law? But Newsom wants to give the state more control over how those monies are spent. Proposition 1 will allow the state to receive a larger share of the tax and require the 58 counties to spend about 2/3 of those funds on housing and rental assistance for the unhoused who are chronically homeless and have mental health or addiction issues that you allowed to go on. You let it fester. You let the tenderloin fester, the junkies, the zombies, the trank, the fentanyl, all of that. And now you're saying, oh, we're going to help you. This is some of the most extreme gaslighting, right? You have Bo Jiden saying that it's the Republicans' fault. The border is a mess, right? And they're constantly gaslighting, but this is one of the worst. I mean, California is quite literally notorious for its homeless program, and San Francisco especially, I guess LA too, but they are quite literally the picture of mismanagement, and Gavin Newsom gets voters to pass this bill after 2 weeks in limbo. It was so close, but don't worry, the majority of Californians are still on my side. This is crazy. About 35% would go towards mental health treatments for those same individuals, and the remainder would be used for prevention services for youth, as well as workforce training and innovation projects. This is just crazy. Oh, look, and then there's some pictures of them. Oh, look, a cute doggy. Look, a doggy wants to pass Prop 1. Wow. Oh, it's 2024. It's March 2024. I'm wearing a mask to cast a ballot for Prop 1 and Governor Gavin Newsom. This is wild. Absolutely crazy. A bunch of B-roll here. Look at this. Yeah, okay. It doesn't matter. But on to this one. From ABC 10, Sacramento, Prop 1 explained. Homeless housing and mental health treatment facilities. I'm sure ABC out of Sacramento is going to shoot it to us straight. It's already a video made for kids. Who do you think is voting for this?
One is about government spending on mental health. It has the power to decide how your tax dollars are spent on mental health for the next 30 years. And right off the bat, I need you to know what California is doing here wouldn't be legal in a lot of states. Scheduling a proposition during...
Oh, you mean a scam bill in California wouldn't be legal in many other states? Oh, go figure, right? That's why California is the way it is, because criminal politicians breed criminal residents and, of course, junkies pay criminals for drugs, whatever. I don't know. I digress.
During a primary election instead of in November means much lower voter turnout to decide the question. The buck stops with your state senator and assembly person on that.
So that's scam number one, right? We always know that a scam breeds new scams, and the first thing they do here is put this on the ballot in March because they know less people are going to be aware of it.
Lawmakers put Prop 1 on your March primary ballot. That lower turnout does come with a silver lining. Your vote, should you choose to cast one, has more power to decide the outcome. Prop 1 is a proposed law that has two parts. It has new state spending, and it changes existing spending on mental health.
And I can only imagine the people that are voting in a March primary in California are on the payroll of Newsom, right? So, as I've always said, there is only blind allegiance and aggressive opposition. So there's a handful of lonely old ladies who say, oh, I just love Gavin Newsom, he's so handsome, and then they cast a ballot. And then the rest are people that are going to be on his payroll, because anybody who's really understanding this would not be able to vote for it.
Let's take the new money first. Prop 1 would have the state borrow and spend $6.4 billion. $2 billion of that is aimed at homelessness.
Where is that money coming from? It's coming out of the pockets of Californians. It's all just fake at this point. Ones and zeros, green and black on a screen.
That'll go into a state program that uses existing hotels and motels to house people.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's go back just a couple seconds. I apologize. This is really triggering me to no end.
$1 billion. $2 billion of that is aimed at homelessness. That'll go into a state program that uses existing hotels and motels to house people. It also builds some new housing units. The bigger slice would pay for new facilities for mental health and addiction treatment. How many places?
There you go. And that's going to be kind of like the bullet train, right? They've been pretending to build a bullet train and sinking all of this money into it, knowing they're not going to be able to finish it. Kind of like the residential complex in LA that got covered in graffiti. They invested all this money, or the scam, and then the scam dried up. It's all a complete mess. How is you'd have to be so far off the plot, right? Like they would have had to have successfully brainwashed you into believing that this is going to work with videos like this, which for the record too, this video is made for like a 5th grader, even though they're talking to people who are apparently going to vote.
What kind? I can't tell you. If voters approve Prop 1, those decisions would be made later.
Okay. Oh yeah, they're not even going to tell you.
What kind? I can't tell you. If voting units, the bigger slice would pay for new facilities for mental health and addiction treatment. How many places? What kind? I can't tell you. If voters approve.
Oh yeah. So new facilities, but whatever. New facilities.
Approve Prop 1, those decisions would be made later. 6.4.
And this also, yeah, okay. We're just pass it, and we'll tell you later. This also reminds me of Mohammed Nuru, right? Like, the man who is literally supposed to be cleaning up the tents and the needles and the poop was taken down by the Fed. So imagine how corrupt he had to be, right? Because the FBI is completely corrupt. London Breed is completely corrupt. So you had to have gone so far off the plot for the FBI to take you down in San Francisco. Meanwhile, London Breed, the mayor of San Francisco, who paid nearly $23,000 in ethics violation fines, she said that she took a gift of $5,600 from Mohammed Nuru to fix her car, even though she's the highest paid mayor in the country. And when you have people like that in one of the state's biggest cities, it's quite obvious. I mean, it's all rotten. It is rotten to the core.
$1 billion of bonds costs billions of dollars to borrow. This is the government's version of taking out a 30-year mortgage. The payments plus interest about $310 million a year, according to the state analysts. How do we pay it? Prop 1 has no new taxes. In fact, it has no plan at all to pay these bonds.
It's all made up. And don't worry, there's no new taxes. Yeah, okay.
Payments would come out of the state's regular budget, something that lawmakers would have to figure out later. Add up all those.
Again, so we're not going to tell you about the new facilities. We're not going to tell you how we're going to pay for it. Just do it. It's all nonsense. Rule by press release, rule by decree, and, you know, somebody will figure it out later.
Homer, where'd you get that truck?
It fell off a truck. A truck.
Where'd you get that?
It fell off a truck.
payments, and the $6.4 billion plus interest could cost taxpayers $9.3 billion over the next 3 decades. That's not set in stone. Interest rates do change, and lately they're up. That was the borrow and spend part. Remember, Prop 1 does have another part. It changes existing mental health spending. 20 years ago, Californians passed a millionaire tax to fund mental health. It raises a few $1 billion a year. Prop 1 wouldn't change the size of this tax, but it would change where it goes. Almost all of this money goes to counties right now. All the county governments in California get 95%. The state government gets 5%. Prop 1 would double the state's share, a 90-10 split. That's about $140 million more for the state and less for the counties each year. This is supposed to pay for state programs to prevent mental illness and addiction, also to hire more mental health care workers. Prop 1 also enacts new rules.
Mental health is just one of their new Democrat dystopian doublespeak euphemisms. You gotta do it. Mental health. All of the junkies and zombies roaming around on the streets that we allowed to fester for years. You want to help them, don't you? Well, no, not really.
On the money counties get. Counties would have to spend more of their money on housing and support services like job searching and education, but that could take money away from other services like treatment, crisis care, and outreach to struggling people. A yes vote makes all of those rule changes and borrows the $6.4 billion in state bonds. A no vote on Prop 1 means that the laws stay on the books the same way they are now. I'm only here to explain what your vote means, not to convince you how to vote. There is a big debate over Prop 1 and its impact, and if you're on the fence, you can read the basic arguments written by both sides in your official state voter guide. You've got till 8 p.m. March 5th, that's primary election day.
Okay, so quite obviously it passed by a narrow margin because some people have been tricked that some people, and I think it's far more sinister. I think there's enough folks they love that, in the state of California that can see through this, but Governor Gavin Newsom, Governor Greaseball Scumbag Bang Your Wife Gavin Newsom has enough power and is strategic enough to make sure that he figures out exactly how to pass this so he can continue his scam on what is hopefully his way out. And also, this has been sticking with me the whole video. There was actually a typo in the first article where they said 6.3 million, which would still be far too much to, to shoot at junkies and continue flushing money down the toilet. What's actually not getting flushed down the toilet. It's going to Gavin Newsom's checkbook and later to the French Laundry,